And the person will say, yes, if I only could, I would forgive. And I always suggest that you are forgiving. You are willing to forgive. You're going as far as you can. Now, you keep going that way and you'll go farther. But we must be clear about this difference between feeling and willing. And Jesus makes this very clear for us on the cross. The will to forgive. Finally, the love of Jesus Christ, as St. John tells us in his Gospel, chapter 13, when he says that Jesus loved them to the end. He loved them to the end. And we remember what he says on the cross, it is finished. It is finished. There's nothing left to give. I've given everything. And he breathed his last. And so this love of Jesus Christ, if we are to love as he loves, means that we must be willing to pay a very high personal cost to bring our love home to others. That is to say that to love as Jesus loves is to practice a self-sacrificing love, a love that brings people home to love. It is crucified love. That's the love of Christ. Behold, Jesus says, I make all things new. And so he gives us, as he says, a new commandment. A new commandment. Well, this is roughly the 2007th year in which these words of Jesus have been proclaimed. It's hard to see, in a sense, what's new about this commandment. We're well familiar with it. We've heard it over and over again. Is it really still new? Well, it's new in the sense that it comes from a new source. When it came originally, it came from the lips of Christ, the Son of God, the Word made flesh, who dwells among us, the ever-new source of all goodness. But in another way, it's new because it is ever new, which is to say, it never gets old. Is there ever a day when you get up in the morning, you get up to a new day, which is like a whole new world? What went on yesterday and the day before is past, and now you have a new world before you. And you need a new commandment. Because to love one another as I have loved you you can't transport yesterday into today. You're going to meet new people in new situations that will call for a new response. And the commandment is new for this new day. It never gets old. Love one another today as I have loved you. Behold, I make all things new, Jesus says, and among those things that are new is a new social world, a new community. And so he says, by this shall all men know that you are my disciples, that you love one another. And so it's not just our single love, individually kind of jumbled together, that really counts, but that this makes something new in the world, a new community of people that love as Jesus loves. And this has consequences. It certainly did in the Mediterranean world when this was first preached, when the pagans who had no idea what to make of such strange preaching saw the effects in the lives of these Christians, saw them gather together, share their goods, rich and poor, and help one another. They saw this and they wanted it, and they joined it, and it grew. By this shall men know that you are my disciples, that you love one another. This love of the new commandment makes the church come to be. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples. It was that way with the first generation of Christians. It was that way with the second, with the 33rd, with whatever generation we are. It's still that way. This is how men will know. Which is to say that the commandment to love one another in this social sense is also a new commandment. It must be made new in the circumstances of today, not of yesterday or 20 years ago. We must build up the church of love because the new commandment never gets old. It is always our task to love as Christ has loved us, to love in welcoming, in forgiving, and in self-sacrificing ways that makes the world truly and radically new. Cary May.